the choices they have too. You already said in your opening statement that there's an audio and also visual for the different kinds of learning styles, but give us a couple of examples of how your students use your new technology.
Okay. Well, we have a classroom. One of the things, we have many, many types of technologies that we use, but one of the things that we've found is we have a classroom that has 24 Palm Pilots, and it's a handheld computer. It's a small computer about the size of a deck of cards. And we wrote a grant for this equipment, and we're funded through the North Idaho College Foundation in partnership with the Tech Prep coordination for this region. And the Palm Pilots are a little more sophisticated than the clicker, but it's kind of the same idea. We use them for lots of different teaching methods. One thing that one of the instructors does is she uses them for testing. And a student can, the test is projected on a screen. A student has a Palm Pilot in front of them, and they can choose what answer they want to that test question. And then when they're satisfied that their answer is correct, they would beam their answers to an infrared system that accepts their answers, and then they get immediate feedback. And that's one of the things
does it say the answer is correct or not?
Exactly. And it goes through, if there are 20 questions, it tells them for every single question which one they got right, which one they got wrong, what the correct answer was. The instructor then follows up with that information. They can go back and research what they got wrong. But the immediate feedback has just been so beneficial to our students, because they don't have to wait 1 or 2 days for an instructor to grade an exam and get it back to them. They know right away how they're doing in that.
Well, there's two things. It's very obvious that all of you have to spend more time than you would just walking into the classroom and lecturing. I mean, there's a lot more hours commitment. But on the positive side is that you save time in grading, too, when it automatically records these results. So, I mean, you're behind the curve as far as the number of hours you put in, but that is one of the advantages, is it not?
It is, and that's one of the things I do find with technology, and I'm sure everybody would agree. The upfront time is much more. It's much more time consuming. It's much more intense. You have to prepare everything ahead of time, so when you walk into the classroom, that technology is ready to go. But there is some time savings, but the benefit is really to the students' learning.
And the other question that I have, and I'll go over to Terry to get that one, with people who have some shyness with this new technology or they hesitate, one of the concerns, and Steve alluded to this too, that when you do the internet classes, for example, some people say there's something lost, and that is that you don't have the personal contact, the verbal contact in the classroom and all. Do you find that with the internet classes a hindrance, or even some people have gone to the point of saying if we do everything at distance, or they don't have to be in the classroom, that there are certain social mechanisms that we will lose in this process?
Yeah, again, I think it gets back to a comment that you made earlier about learning styles. I think for certain people, certain environments work better than others. I personally think that by being in the classroom forces you to deal with others' opinions. And online, if I happen to see a post for a chat room, and there's all sorts of things, discussion rooms or discussion bulletin boards and chat rooms. If I see somebody I don't like or don't like their opinion, I don't have to face that. And that's one of the things I'm trying to work around. But at the same time, the last time I taught an IVC class, one of my students was from in the Silver Valley, and she had a form of autism that she could, she learned real well, but her autism, she didn't like to interact with people. She didn't like to be around a lot of people. So the IVC class was perfect for her. And I think one of the things that, again, it allows us to reach different people. I have a student in one of my music classes right now whose vision is not very good. And so I'll go in with a presentation, and because it's on a computer and it's on PowerPoint, if she just raises her hand, I can't read that in a matter of seconds, I can make that readable for her. And those kinds of adjustments, kind of on the fly, help us to get by that. But in terms of your regular question, I think a lot of it depends on learning styles. I have a lot of nursing students in my online class because of the flexibility of the schedule. The sacrifice there is that there's nobody really to talk to at 2 o'clock in the morning when you've got all your kids in bed and you're done studying, you know, for Peter's class, and so you get to my class, and you know, so those kind of ways, normally one either wouldn't be taking a class or certainly wouldn't have discussion.
Right.
Because of the discussion boards, they can post something and then get some response back to it. So it's
on that note, I have to bring our permanent conclusion. It's unbelievable that 30 minutes have already gone by, and we're going to proceed with a lot of other questions to you on the next show. And ladies and gentlemen, I have really enjoyed bringing this program to you on the use of modern technology to revolutionize college teaching. And I have some real experts here. And we have other things we want to talk about with more visuals from Kathy O'Brien on the next program. And I hope you're going to join us at that time, and we'll continue this very important subject, and hope you're getting information that's helpful to you. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running in-house college production on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station. The shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
I welcome you back to part 2 of our 2-week series on a very important topic called the use of modern technology to revolutionize college teaching. I have 4 guests, and I learned so much last week, and that's why it's so exciting. So much of this I don't know, and we are really in a change in our society about how we teach and how we use that technology. I welcome to the program our 4 guests from last week. First of all is Terry Jones from the music department at North Idaho College, and he does a remarkable job with his classes and his great concerts. Welcome back, Terry.
Thank you.
And equally pleased to have Steve Smith, who is North Idaho College User Services Manager and works closely with all of our classes and faculty. And Steve, it's great to see you back.
Thank you, Tony.
And third is Kathy O'Brien, and equally pleased to have her. She is in the Business and Office Technology faculty. And Kathy, we look forward to seeing some of your visuals this time. And again, welcome back to the program. And also Peter Zao, welcome back to the program, an outstanding member of our faculty and one of the pioneers of all this technology at our institution. He's in the biology department and teaches there, and welcome to the program.
Pleasure.
I'm going to start with Steve Smith this time. Steve, you are kind of a conduit to this whole process, and you and your other staff, and you're here to be tremendous help to the faculty that's so willing to experiment and to get involved in this. Share with us, we talked last time a lot about internet courses, which have become very common. We talked about distance learning and having sites where the students can see one another as they interchange with the faculty member at one site. But you're on the cutting edge with other experts that you talk to. Where are we headed from here? What else, or what are we doing we haven't talked about, or what are some of the possibilities in the near future?
Sure. Well, nobody knows. And one of the big challenges working in IT is trying to keep up with the fantastic instructors that we have at NIC. But one of the things that we do try to do is look forward. And I guess if I had to hazard a guess, is that 3D online environments are a thing that I think is the future of cutting edge technology for education, or at least it could be. It's sort of a merging of things like MySpace, our WebCT course management software, all of these things combined in a 3D environment.
Explain to us what you mean by 3D environment.
Typically now, in most web content management systems, you have a series of bulletin boards and email, which is how you interact with students, and you post assignments. 3D environments are such that you actually create buildings, you create people, and so it's in virtual world, but you have that direct interaction with the instructor and with the other students. You would sit in an environment such as this and have conversations in a virtual world. And it just takes the interaction up to that next level. And while certainly I don't know if that's the future, it just sure feels like it. That's as you see the students coming up into our institution and all colleges, that's the way they interact in their life outside, and they want to interact that way in college as well.
Television has done a lot with that too.
It does.
In fact, here they had an experiment some time ago. They had a camera along with their computer, and they were communicating with some people in Japan, and they were actually visually seeing one another. So that may solve the problem that Terry and I talked about last week on, the idea of faculty members being able to actually see the students and see their non-verbal reactions and all. And so that probably just around the corner. When I introduced the program last week, we just have this revolution going on, and a lot of jobs are going to be in 2010, weren't in 2004. So what you're talking about may just be the first step, and who knows what's going to happen. I want to turn to Kathy O'Brien now. And Kathy, we promised our viewers last week that we would go a little more detail on your work. Peter gave us this remarkable example of how he's using these technologies, and we're going to have you to go through the visuals. We have, again, our staff putting up on the screen, and I think we have 3 we want to show, and would you explain what's happening with those?
Sure. One of the things we talked about last week was our classrooms full of Palm Pilots. We have 24 that were grant funded, and those are wireless Palm Pilots.
Here's the first one.
Oh, okay. This is our smart board. And the classroom, both of our classrooms in McLean and many classrooms across campus have smart boards, and they act as they're projecting a computer monitor. So the computer monitor is at the instructor station, but the smart board is projecting that information to a large it looks like a whiteboard, but it can be interacted with both electronically as well as, this is Sue Shibley, one of my favorite teachers on campus, and she's using a pen that is attached that can electronically enter information onto that whiteboard, and that information can be either printed just the way it is in handwriting, or it can be converted to text for the student.
Okay, and she can do it. Can the students also intervene in that?
This is in a regular classroom.
Okay.
So this is, instead of being online, this is interacting with on-campus students in a classroom. So that's at the front of the class, and all the students are watching and listening. They can interact in terms of, she could call them up to the board, which we often do, but we have another piece of software called Synchronize that they can actually, she can project that to their computer that they're at their station, and then they can interact there too. So there's a lot of interaction going on there. You can display moving pictures, still pictures, or your own information on that smartboard. Again, the file can be saved, it can be printed, it can be posted to a website for students' use later, and it's a really wonderful tool for reaching students of all different learning styles and all different
I think they have a second one here that shows them at their desk, if they can put that up. I know this is a different one.
This is a student who's interacting individually with software that supplements and complements our teaching, both online and in the classroom. So this is a software that teaches a student how to use Excel. And after they might listen to a lecture if they're in an on-campus class, or work through the materials in the online class, if they feel like they still need help with that concept, they can go through this software. It is audio, it is visual, and it is interactive. In other words, that student is actually interacting with that computer and is being talked through a specific problem in Excel. So whether you're a visual learner, audio learner, or hands-on kinesthetic type of learner, you are getting all of those, and you can choose which one you want to use, or use all of them. In addition, this piece of software the students have available, it comes with their books, and so they can take it home and install it on a piece of computer equipment. It's in the library. It's in the classroom. So say they get home and they're thinking, I still don't understand, I'm not sure I still get what Kathy was talking about. They can go through it time and time and
And
time
you have to
again.
do it as many times as you need to.
Many of them take 10 times to go through it before they get the concept. But once they get it, they get it. And they're so excited that they don't have to feel pressure in a classroom that somebody else is getting
Yeah.
this and I'm not.
Right. There's a third, I hope we can get the other photograph there. That shows
Yeah.
them at their desk.
These are the students using the Palm Pilots
Right.
in the Palm Classroom. And in the
and
back,
each one has one.
Each one has one in their hands, and in the back you'll see a cupboard that has the rest of them. There are 24. They are wireless, so they can get online if they'd like. If many of the teachers will use websites that contain material they want to supplement or complement their lectures. These students are actually taking a test using the Palm Pilots, so the test is being projected. The students are selecting their answers. They will then beam those answers to an infrared piece of equipment and get immediate feedback whether they were right or wrong. So before they go home that day, they know what they got on the test and they know what questions they missed, so they can study and be more prepared the next time that information comes up. The other thing that these Palm Pilots do is enable the instructors to keep electronic grade books, and so our students know at any time what their grades are. They don't have to
You
wait
and
till
they both.
midterms. Yeah, and the
So
teacher as well. That's right.
Both of you know what the progress is.
Right. So there's no waiting for the midterms to come out. There's so they
remarkable.
know exactly where they are in a class at any one
Not that
time.
long, 2 or 3 week delay. I had a professor one
Exactly.
time, he was a brilliant professor, but he said you don't get any of your grades back until you take the final. Once you go out the door, you get your other grades. So you were there a whole quarter without knowing what's going on. That's quite different. Terry, I want to come to you and then back over to Peter. Terry, you talked between the shows when we were going to take the second show about, I have two things really. One is that you can actually use the internet right in the classroom. And then secondly, I'd like for you to give us a specific of how you specifically use this in dealing with one of your music classes.
Well, one of the classes I teach is a pop music class, which is obviously contemporary things are
Right.
going on, and I think that for the students, I think to actually see somebody else to reinforce the things that we've said in class. I mean, my pop music class deals a lot with discussions of the music industry and its manipulation of what we listen to and what we don't, and I think sometimes they look at teachers and they think, oh yeah, well, what gives you the right to say that, or they kind of challenge our knowledge, and so it's nice to be able to just real quickly go to websites and to use the support
Right during the class.
right during the class. A good example, I suppose, we were dealing with a jazz musician by the name of John Coltrane, and I was talking about how important he was and how a lot of people think that he was, beyond what most musicians could do. And I said, for example, we can go to the Church of John Coltrane, and one of those kind of weird concepts for especially those of us in North Idaho who would think that there are actually churches that worship jazz musicians. And so I was able to go right to that church website, which is a real interesting place to visit. But it was, again, reinforces those things that are in class that you can't possibly keep that many kind of visual aids in your back pocket or in your briefcase in order to access all those things like that. So I think that the access of the internet in my pop music classes specifically. I also teach a world music class, and it's really nice to be able to go to, in that class, we can now access radio stations through streamed audio from all over the country or all over the world, and many of those have English broadcasts with foreign music, and that's something that even as much as 3 or 4 years ago I wouldn't even have thought was possible. But now those things I can bring into the classroom as well as the students can go out and listen to a variety of different stuff, really connecting them with the rest of the planet.
What you bring to my mind is really fascinating is during the class time, maybe it's an hour, 50 minutes, an hour and 15, you can actually go on a world visit with them visually with this technology. In other words, your lecture can be like a travelogue almost, and give examples. I would think that would really enhance learning, because when they can see certain things and really identify with it, the level. Have you noticed the level of retention is much greater?
Well, that particular thing is so new to my class that will be interesting to see. In fact, the world music class I'm teaching right now, the textbook is designed, and one of the reasons I chose it is it's designed as a travelogue. We're traveling from one place to another, so it's real great to do that, just like you would. We spend a little bit of time before we introduce a new culture to look online. Okay, what do we know about this culture? And so it really adds a real dimension other than just that kind of superficial kind of learning about something. They can actually be more involved with it. So,
Peter, your world's a little different in the sense that, at least when I was a student, which was eons ago. But in the natural science classes, we'd have our lectures and all, and then the lab was an essential part of that process. And we, in the lab, got to experiment with, I went in biology with, I remember different experiments we had that tied to the lecture. Some people not realizing the creativity that this all brings. How is the lab so different from the lecture in relation to this technology? In other words, we've always had hands-on, and you're dealing with them in biology or in some of the others, certainly in botany and all, different plants and different animals and different courses. How do you use the technology in the lab?
Actually, very similar to what we do in lecture, except the student is on their own to access the materials. Our labs are equipped with PCs, and what I have done is put online tutorials, much the way that I record my lectures. I also record procedures. So if we're going to do a dissection of the heart, for example, then I'll have a pre-dissected heart that I will put on my PC and talk the student through the dissection process.
So they have that before them as they're doing the dissection.
They do.
What an enhanced process. Before that, you have to go around each one. You can only spend so much time. But with this, each one can instantly be doing that while you're also assisting in other ways.
Exactly. And not only that, they can actually, and I recommend that they look at those videos before they even come to class. Mm-hmm. So we have a whole new level of preparation before the student even comes here. There's also other software that is freeware in which you can create slideshows. And so I have slideshow collections of the various procedures